We're very much working to enable everybody within the community to enjoy the arts and, follow their dreams a bit.
Welcome to Island Influencers, where we share stories of successful business owners, experienced professionals, entrepreneurs and community leaders based or with influence in the Isle of Man. This podcast is brought to you by Thornton Chartered Financial Planners, because great financial planning has the power to change your life. Now here's your host, Sharon Sutton.
My Island influencer this week is Jane Corkill, Arts Development Manager at the Isle of Man Arts Council. Jane is incredibly musical, and after obtaining her language degree from Edinburgh University, she talks of her scholarship and time at the University of Idaho, singing in choirs and jazz groups. She's since met her husband, raised a family, and settled on the Isle of Man, whilst completing a further degree to then teach music. Although she confesses that she does less singing these days, Jane loves singing for fun with the Manx Voices choir and her group, the Shimmers. Jane's been working at the Isle of Man Arts Council since July 2018. She heads up the arts team to look after the Isle of Man Arts Council and to work with all their artists and creatives to develop and promote the arts. She also manages the Youth Arts Centre on Kensington Road, Douglas. Jane has been passionate about the arts all of her life, and when this role came along, she just knew it was a job for her. She explains how she loves every day of it, all the different and interesting challenges it brings, and feels really privileged and lucky to work with such brilliant people. She wants to change the perception of the Isle of Man Arts Council. Jane highlights that they don't just deal with the highbrow side of arts. Anything creative goes. Weekends are family time for Jane, and she loves getting out into the countryside to walk or to ride her e-bike. And here's this week's conversation with Jane Corkill in episode 67 of Island Influencers. Welcome, Jane. Thanks so much for coming in to be one of our Island Influencers. It's lovely to have you all the way out in St John's Mill on a not very nice evening in December.
No, but it is quite a nice evening because I'm about to go and see Jason Donovan this evening.
Oh, are you?
Yes.
Yeah, he's still looking pretty good.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Goodness, well, I'll try not to keep you too long. But so thank you very much. I mean, so your role. I mean, you're a well-known musician, singer in the Isle of Man. I mean, you're pretty. You won the Cleveland Medal, did you not?
Oh, I've sang a lot for the Cleveland Medal, but I think my guild days are behind me now. I think, I've done it since I was a child, since I was very small. Yeah. And, I still sing with friends in the guild, but my solo days now. Too busy doing other things. So.
Yeah. You have to move on different phases in your career,
and I do still sing solo at a lot of events. People ask me to sing at all sorts of things. Yeah. So that's nice. But,
that's lovely.
But the guild is a bit pressured at times, so...
Yeah,
it's now
I can imagine.
Now I've just got to the point where I do the things I like. So.
Yeah, good. Well, I hope you're going to tell us all about what those things are.
Well, maybe.
Including what your current role is today at the Arts Council. Is it still called Arts Council?
Yeah, so my role is actually my job title is the Arts Development Manager. Mm-hmm. And I work within the Department of Education, Sport and Culture, and part of my remit is to look after the Arts Council. Yeah. Which it's wonderful. It's a great experience. The Arts Council is made up of volunteer members with a political chairman, which is currently Marlene Masker.
Right.
She's
a pretty good chairman to have as musicians go.
Absolutely. Yes. We couldn't have a better chairman. No. And then we have a mixed group of 9 sort of members of the community who are all very involved with the arts in all sorts of different ways. We have people involved with film, people involved with drama, music, all the arts that you would expect.
So pretty wide and inclusive. But,
yeah. So I look after that. Yeah. And I also look after the Youth Arts Centre on Kensington Road, which is undergoing a bit of a transformation. So lots going on there. Yeah. And I also look after the arts team. So we actually have a team of officers, of civil servants, if you like, who are responsible for all things arts.
Right. Okay. Sounds fascinating. Getting, I imagine, to this position today. Tell the listeners how you came to be in that role.
Well, actually, I came to this particular job a little bit by sort of good fortune, really. Prior to that, whilst my children were growing up, I was teaching music privately at home.
Yes,
and they grew up and didn't need mummy at home anymore. And I literally just one day, looking on the internet, there it was. I wasn't actively even really looking to go back to work. It was a seed in the back of my mind, and when I saw the job, I just instantly thought, that's my job. That's me. That's the one for me.
Oh, that's great.
But it was literally the day before the applications closed, so the CV went in, and the next thing I knew, I was having an interview in Guild Week, I hasten to add. And the next thing I knew, I had the job. So it was... I count my lucky stars every day, really, because I honestly think I have the best job in the world, with the best team, with the best people.
I'd have to argue that one, but okay. This is your podcast. So you're from the Isle of Man, I presume?
I am. Yeah, born here, educated here.
Yeah.
Then I went off to university.
Yes.
And
so where did you go?
Well, I went to the University of Edinburgh to begin with.
Yeah.
Where I did a degree in languages. And then I fortunately won the Ella Olsen Scholarship from the government.
That's amazing.
And I went off to Idaho in America, and I had the most amazing year out there. Yes, I did, because I was very lucky, and having got my degree, I used the year to become involved musically with lots of things out there, and just had a fabulous time singing in all sorts of choirs and jazz groups and experiencing American university life.
Did you think? How did you grow from there? Did you bring away anything with you from that?
I think not that I regret doing my degree in languages, but I think when I look back now, possibly if I'd have had my time over again, I would have chosen to have gone and study music. I mean, subsequently, I have done a degree in music.
Yes.
I have an LTCL, so I did get there, but I didn't quite go sort of a linear route from school, you know. And that was just the way it was. I think when I did my A-levels, I loved languages, and that's what I was studying there at school. And
which languages did you do?
French and German.
Yeah.
And then it just seemed that's the step at the time. That's where I sort of was. But I think the year in America just gave me confidence about things, about possibly my own sort of musical ability. And it was interesting, because whenever I used to sing in the big the big concert choir, and whenever they wanted people to sing to get vowels right if they were doing things, I used to be hauled out and made to sing, because I had English vowels, and I don't know, I have somewhat probably northern vowels, Manx vowels, so it's possibly not quite what they were after, but it was far more than anybody else had. So I used to be the person that was dragged out.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
What was your favourite part that you played out there?
They had the University of Idaho had a massive jazz choir.
Yeah.
And they had a fantastic conductor of the choir, a chap called Dan Buckfitch, who is was a percussionist,
right,
and a drummer, and had connections with Phil Collins. I think he actually had been the drummer on Phil Collins's albums at points.
Yeah.
And he wrote music for the American military band. You know, he was a very well respected and well-renowned musician. And we used to go and travelling around different states and sing.
Wow.
So it was fabulous. But it was a massive choir.
Yeah.
All, you know, young people all singing arrangements of all sorts of fantastic jazz stuff. So it was great, really, really great. Yeah.
So what made you come back?
Just sort of life, really. I came back thinking, well, I did come back and I did some teacher training, but just life. I came back thinking I would probably move off the Isle of Man, and somehow sort of didn't. I met Gavin, my husband,
right.
And you know how life goes that way. The next thing, I was sort of getting married, and then the children came along, and at that point I worked in the financial sector. I worked for Flemings, which subsequently became all sorts of things, Fairburns. Yeah. And then when the children, you know, came along, I eventually I sort of went part-time, and then even more part-time, and it dwindled down, and then I gave up work.
Yeah.
And then I started teaching. People said, well, why don't you teach? And by that point, I'd done my LTCL. And I thought, I don't know.
What, in your spare time with kids and family? And okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so so the next thing...
Must have been good babies.
Yeah, they weren't bad. They had their moments. And then the next thing, I started teaching, and that, you know, developed. Yeah. And then here I am.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, that's fabulous. Thank you for sharing that. It's, you know, do you hide your light under a bushel a bit, because you know that you wouldn't have mentioned it. So you sent me a bio in before, and I'm just wondering what else, because you're always on stage. Well, you were a Douglas Choral Union. You've made
Yeah, I
loads of
haven't
roles.
done that lately.
Yeah.
Sort of shows. Again, it's a time commitment. People that do the shows, it is almost like a full-time job at times. But having said that, I am singing on the Gaiety stage on Friday evening at the Manannan's Winterfest.
Oh, are you?
Yes.
That looks amazing. I'm
Yes.
so sorry we can't go to that.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about that.
Yeah.
And I sing now with my friends Ruth Tickle, Paul Costain and John Snelling.
Yeah.
And slightly by accident, we've all had the same singing teacher, Eleanor Shimmers.
Yeah.
And a few years ago we thought, it would be great fun, we'll put a quartet into the guild. And a little bit tongue-in-cheek, we called ourselves the Shimmers, obviously with the connection to Eleanor. And it's kind of stuck.
Right.
So now we sing all over the place as a foursome. In fact, we sang for Princess Anne at Tynwald. We were asked to sing for Princess Anne. So we've been asked to sing
That's lovely.
on Friday night, and we're all struggling with various Manx words and things at the minute. But
okay.
we'll get there.
Yeah, I'm sure there's loads of help.
Oh, it's fine. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
The first one, I think I went to the first one. It was hilarious.
Yeah, I think Dot's involved.
Oh, if Dot's involved, I remember her and Jeff Corkish there was a tea tray involved and a trolley, and Jeff Corkish with an old vest and Let's Do It. That was a song.
Yeah, the mind boggles.
You're right. It was visually brilliant.
Yeah, so I'm busy with that. So whilst I'm not sort of doing shows at the Gaiety, I am still performing there, and I work down there now, so
it's got to work.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it is.
Fantastic. Well, if you don't mind me asking, I primarily ask this when I'm doing my day job, but for you, how was money growing up?
Well, both my dad worked. He was the manager of Edmondson Electrical,
right,
and my mum, as I was growing up, had various part-time jobs when myself and my brother were growing up. So she was very much at home. Dad was out earning.
Yeah.
So fairly traditional, really.
Yeah. But I mean, how did you view it? What was your earliest memory of it?
Money. Well, when I was a teenager, I had a job at Marks and Spencer's.
Did you? That's very entrepreneurial of you.
Yeah, I got a little part-time job there, Thursday late nights and Saturdays. And I think that's when I probably started to think about, now I've got a little bit of money that's mine. And then, of course, going to university, all of a sudden, that's the realisation that I've got to sort this out for myself. I can't just keep ringing up mum and going, I've got no money. So, and I used to work when I would come home in the summer as well.
Gosh.
So, and mum and dad were brilliant and supported me in everything I've ever wanted to do growing up. And now I look back on it all, I think probably at one point my brother and myself were both at university. And at times when I look back now, probably things were probably a bit tight, but it was never made apparent to either of us. We've been both very, very lucky to have that support.
Yeah,
all
that's
the way
amazing.
through.
That's amazing. And do you think your kids have got that about them? Do they?
Well, yes. Obviously, my eldest, my son is studying to be an accountant. So, yeah, he gets it.
Yeah, something rubbed off there.
He definitely gets it. Not so sure about my daughter, but she's about to hopefully go to university as well. So those lessons will be learnt.
Sounds like she's got a good teacher.
Oh, I don't think my husband would agree.
He doesn't get a say.
Oh, he does. Sometimes.
So, of all the things that you've done throughout your life so far, then what's been the most fulfilling for you? What's given you the most fulfillment? I mean, you can say from a career history, or from a family one, of course.
Well, obviously, my children, I suppose, are my sort of greatest pleasure, pride, joy in my life.
Yes.
But I think, personally as well, obviously my current job.
Yeah.
It's just brilliant. Every day is different, and I get the pleasure and privilege to meet and find out about our creative community on the Isle of Man.
It's vast.
It's vast, and the Isle of Man seriously punches above its weight creatively for a small population of 80,000 people. It's incredible what goes on here. In every way. So it's just so exciting all the time. The time.
Oh, that's great. What's the most unusual thing you've come across so far?
There are lots and lots of surprising things. And what's always very interesting is obviously people apply for funding to the Arts Council. And the Arts Council are really supportive of all sorts of different projects. And I think primarily people think of arts councils, those kind of bodies, as being quite old-fashioned, that it's all about opera and ballet, sort of the more sort of dare I say it, how highbrow sort of arts. But the current Arts Council in the last couple of years have really embraced change and very much want to promote all art on the Isle of Man.
Super.
So they haven't ended up, we've funded things like a live music series down at Compton Vaults when Compton Vaults was going down in Castletown. And also another one at Secret Pizza to enable new bands on the Isle of Man to go and play their original music in venues, because obviously predominantly people go and play covers, don't they?
Yeah, they do, yeah.
So to give them their opportunity to do that, the Arts Council would fund, and people would say, I was down at Compton Vaults the other night and there was an Arts Council banner down there, and say, well, yeah, because we're involved in that, which is fantastic. So we're very much working to, enable everybody within the community to enjoy the arts and sort of, follow their dreams a bit. People come to us a lot and say, I've written a book, but I need some funding to help me get it printed and marketed.
Yeah.
So it goes from tiny things like that to venues. The Arts Council supports all the venues, the Air and Arts, Peel Centenary, the Gaiety, all those venues. Yeah. So it goes from the very smallest thing to the very biggest thing on the Isle of Man. It's very exciting.
Yeah, it sounds it. So if there are any existing creative person who's looking for some tips as to how to get to the next step, what would be your number one tip in helping these people?
Well, what I would say is that there are bodies like the Arts Council around to come and talk to.
Yeah.
And we've seen a lot during the lockdowns. People went back to creativity. People would be getting in touch and saying, I used to paint, or I used to sew, or I used to felt, or I used to...
Yeah.
And I've taken it up again. So we've seen quite a lot of people now actually starting to make that an income stream for themselves. Last Thursday, or 2 weeks ago now, we had a market in the Villa Arcade on the night of the switch on lights in Douglas. Yeah. And it's chock-a-block. We had there were almost 50 stalls there of local creatives and artisans, people making jewellery, all sorts of artwork, all sorts of things. And we've seen a lot of people just come to us and say, I really would like to do this, but I just need a little bit of support. What do you think? And so the beauty of the Arts Council is that funding is there for them.
Yeah.
So my top tip would be just believe in yourself and go and ask somebody. You'd be surprised what people do.
Sounds like a wealth of knowledge down there.
Yeah, a lot. And the support is there for people.
Oh, that's great.
It is.
So what do you do to relax then if you're not doing this and not out singing and go and watch Jason Donovan?
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm a mad keen supporter of anything at the theatre or at the Villa.
So how do you keep your life in balance then?
Well, life is busy, with two children who are now sort of 19 and 17, so they're growing up. But one of my favourite things is actually to just go out and have a walk. Yeah. Most weekends, Gavin and I will find the time to just go out and have a walk and have a cup of coffee somewhere and just take it all in and just get away from it all. I also have an e-bike.
Ah, well done.
Yeah. Which I love, and which I have to admit I haven't ridden all that much lately. But
stop being fit. I haven't. I'm supposed to be a cyclist. I haven't been anywhere on Zwift.
But my plan, obviously, turning into the new year, is that I will get back on my bike. So I just like to, a bit of downtime, time with friends. Yeah. Glass of wine, good book.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
It doesn't. We'll get to that.
It doesn't happen all the time.
No.
And this time of the year, next week I've got an entire week. Every night I'm either out rehearsing, because the Shimmers are also singing on the train. Well, they're not actually singing on the train. We're singing in Port Erin.
I was going to say that's giving up a whole evening to go and
We are. We're going to be Victorian carolers, so we're going to be at Port Erin down. Yeah, can't wait for that. So we've got rehearsals for that.
Yeah.
I've been asked to go as a guest to various carol services and things like that. So. Oh, it'll be fabulous.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So all of that is just so lovely. So it's work, but it's the nicest possible work.
Yeah, and I get it. So what do you think are the best things about living in the Isle of Man then?
I think we have a quality of life that is unparalleled, really. And I think we're all fairly guilty of probably taking it all for granted. But I just, it never ceases to amaze me how much is going on in the Isle of Man all the time. And I'm always frustrated when people say there's nothing to do on the Isle of Man. There is so much to do on the Isle of Man.
I guess you can probably sympathise a little bit, as those are a bit reticent of going out and catching COVID, for example.
Absolutely, at the minute.
That must have hurt a lot of things.
A lot of things. And obviously, you know, where I work down at Villa Gaiety, it's all taken very seriously because you are putting a lot of people into a space.
So have you worked around that?
Well, the Villa have, they have all their measures in place. You know, that I know when I go tonight, I'm expected to wear a mask. There's hand sanitizers there. You know, I don't think that the concert tonight, for example, is full, so I think there will be plenty of space. They try and ventilate, all the usual things.
Yeah.
But I think people are slightly reticent.
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? You need an audience, but I understand people's.
Yeah, I think it's natural. We were singing at a service on Saturday afternoon, the Organ Donors Memorial Service at St George's, and I thought it would actually be quite quiet because of that, but it wasn't. It was packed.
Yeah, just you never tell, can you?
Yeah, it's a very important and precious thing to them, and it's a great honour to be asked to sing for them. And most people were there, but just with a mask on. So I think the desire is there to get out.
Yeah, it's just being sensible.
Yeah.
Oh, good. So what would you say that the main challenges are that the Isle of Man faces?
Lots of challenges. I think certainly speaking from what I do work-wise, I think one of the main challenges we face is that the arts in particular has suffered, nationally, internationally. And we have been really, really lucky here on the island that we were able to just continue as we were.
Yeah, we were,
But certainly as nationally, I think for particularly students, local students looking to go off island and perhaps, move into drama and music, I think maybe the opportunities available off island perhaps won't be as wide as they once were.
No.
But I think there is, creative industries is a massive industry in the UK, so hopefully it will pick up. There is government support out there. So.
Yeah, and what about locally? Can you see any opportunities or solutions that we can follow through on here to promote that?
The Arts Council, just talking about what they're doing a bit more, the Arts Council have, during the lockdowns, we did put in place what we call COVID resilience funding, because what we slightly found was that, creatives who work on their own perhaps didn't necessarily tick all the boxes for the sort of the financial schemes that were in place from the government.
No, of course not. Yeah.
So people could. We had a couple of emergency funding rounds where they could apply, and get some support to sort of keep them going. Sometimes that was they perhaps had a studio and needed to pay some rent.
Yeah.
For example, but they couldn't obviously go and they was just struggling with their income. And the Arts Council still has, it's also set aside some money, which is still there, sitting there for COVID support. So there is funding available for creatives who have suffered and still need that.
That's worthwhile knowing. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, they would just contact you, I suppose.
Yeah, just come in and have a chat.
Yeah, okay, that's great. So what's next? What's planned next?
Next?
Yeah.
Well.
You don't strike me as someone who stands still too long, Jane.
I never have time. But turning into next year, oh gosh, I don't know really. The usual stuff will occur. There'll be the Guild. I'm sure, the Shimmers, myself, we'll all be out singing. Yeah. And all of that will continue. And certainly for the Arts Council, they have their sort of the biggest funding round of the year is in March, so that all gears up. And then we're very busy at the minute at the Youth Arts Centre. We've just appointed a creative development coordinator there. Okay. Peter Shimmers, who's has been an actor and is now back on the island. And Peter, hopefully, we would like to make the Youth Arts Centre a full community arts hub for Douglas, for young people, for in particular, but also for the community in general. So Peter has got a massive remit coming his way.
Yeah.
So that's all really, really exciting. So that's going to be a big project for us for 2022.
Yeah. And is there anything further away on the horizon, you know, the strategic direction that the Arts Council's going?
Yeah, so the Arts Council works alongside Culture Vannon.
Yeah.
And
I've noticed that. It seems to be an awful lot of collaboration, which is super to see. It really
it's
is.
Great. And we each have our sort of own sort of our remits, but we work very closely together. And both bodies are the work within the national strategy, the national development strategy for the development of culture and arts on the island, which is a Tynwald approved strategy.
That's great.
And so we're 5 years into that, and at the minute we are very, very busy reviewing all of that. And I imagine, fingers crossed, in March we will publish the review of that, and there'll be a new strategy.
Sounds exciting.
Yeah, it's interesting because obviously since it was first written, the lockdowns and the pandemic has occurred.
Yes.
So it has sort of
lots of change, I guess.
Yeah. And words that weren't in the first strategy are very much focused in there now, such as equality and diversity and inclusivity, because I think it's just society has sort of changed now.
Sure has.
Yeah. So all of that's coming our way as well.
That's great. You can see we're in safe hands, Jane.
I hope so. I hope so.
Oh, that's excellent. So books. You mentioned books before.
Yeah, books.
Just a few fun questions to finish off with. What books have you read recently that you would recommend to listeners, or any just source of inspiration, or just a good read?
I am a massive reader, but I read for pleasure, and I think I'm guilty of reading it and then slightly instantly sort of forgetting it in a way.
Oh, okay.
I read a lot when I go to bed at night, and then obviously wake up the next morning and can't remember what I've read.
So what are you reading at the moment?
I am reading a book called The Familiars at the minute, which I think was a bestseller. It's about witches.
Right.
And I read all sorts of things. I read a thriller. I read, anything really, anything going. I have hundreds of books on my Kindle, hundreds. And I see them and I download them. And yeah.
Favourite author?
Oh, favourite author. I don't honestly think I have one.
So if there's one that came out tomorrow, I've got to have that new book.
Well, I do love a good historical novel.
Ah, okay.
So I'm a big Alison Weir fan, or Philippa Gregory and those kind of novels.
Right, okay.
I'm a bit of a Tudor geek.
Okay. And what's your favourite quote? Have you got one?
So one of my favourite quotes is something my mum always says to me and her quote is, "If you don't start it, you haven't got it to stop," which is a slightly sort of maybe a negative thing, but it is something that I think about a lot in my sort of personal life, I guess, taking too much on. People ask myself and the others particularly to sing at lots of events, and sometimes it's learning to say the word, actually, no. I can't.
Yeah.
Because I simply never want to let anybody down. If people ask us to sing, I always want to be there, and it's always lovely to be asked, so we always want to go and do it. But sometimes it's important to just learn that word no, to keep the balance of everything that's going on.
Yeah, no.
So that's one of my little quotes that I frequently say.
Yeah, it's good. It is. It's good to know. Main inspiration? Can I ask you that?
I think I work with a lot of very inspirational people. As I grew up, my teacher, Eleanor Shimmers, she was the person I used to sing in Eleanor's choir when I was little. And she's still my teacher, although I think now she's my friend, She was the mentor, the music mentor in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm very fortunate to have that relationship in my life. I mean, she's just the most amazing lady in every way, and she still has the power. If the four of us go up, if we go up to sing, we go up perhaps and we'll sort of have a rehearsal with her, she still has that power to bring the very best out of us. And as good as we think we might be singing it, there's always just that tiny thing that she will bring to the party that she makes a difference. She's amazing.
And what did you think about you calling yourselves the Shimmers?
Oh, she roared with laughter. She thinks it's hilarious. And even when we went to sing at Tynwald, at the ceremony this year in the church there, I thought, it would be our names that would be in the sort of order of service, but it wasn't. It just said the Shimmers. So there we are.
That's
we did
super.
it in jest, but with a lot of love, and it's.
I like it. It's great. Okay, so where can people go to learn more about you, the work you're doing? What's the main website?
Well, Isle of Man Arts Council, www.iomarts.com.
Fantastic. And are you on social media?
Yeah, we are. We're on Facebook.
Yeah, okay.
All the normal stuff.
Okay.
And we're based in the Villa Marina Arcade. So if people do want to come in and see us, they can just call in and have a chat if I'm not there, to the team.
Well, that's great. If you give us all those details, we'll stick them in the show notes so people can contact you via the podcast episode. So.
Yeah. Lovely.
That's lovely. Thank you so much, Jane. Thanks for coming in.
You're welcome.
You've been a lovely guest. Thank you. Answering all our questions of all things Isle of Man Arts Council related. So.
Thank you.